blarting in Mahu. And Stephen, I looked up Mahu, Googled it, and the definition is, of course, South Pacific ladyboy, which you knew.
Part of my undercurrent, yeah, part of my theme.
10 years of self-publishing. The last thing that I've done is something called Metrobolist. It's 5 books, 5 chapters, and it's really the story of how when I was living in the suburbs in the late 60s, there was this guy who had more or less sort of failed and given up being a 60s mod singer, and he decided to return. He actually came from the suburbs, he decided to return to the suburbs and start a sort of arts lab. And because I'd done some artworks, you know, this is an art gallery, which is first rate. I did some things, put on the wall a few posters, and then he was making, I think, after 2 unsuccessful LPs, he decided to make a 3rd LP, and asked me if I would do a design for the sleeve of this LP after I listened to these tapes, and I didn't know that he didn't know, and I didn't know that he would become David Bowie. And I did this record sleeve, and decision was made to call it Metrobolist, which was perfectly acceptable until the record company saw the design and the title and decided that they would completely vandalise it, paint it over. And there's a huge link with the Mahu project here in an art gallery in 2015 with sort of 1969 and 1970 dealing with the whole decade, which is really is another country now. What's interesting, I mean, it's interesting that Steve's, you've invited a writer, Daniela, who's written for 0 books, Test Department, you've got things like The Quietus, Repeater, and I think it's really good that somehow those decades can be represented in the 2020 teens. And I've done a quote from a 0 book. It's by Chris O'Leary, called Rebel Rebel, and I think it only came out early this year. And there's a quote in it which is really only the prosperous, youth-heady pop music emporia that was Britain and America in the 60s and 70s could have produced Bowie, the rock musician. Had he come early in the 20th century, he would have been a painter or a music hall performer. Had he come today, he'd likely be writing for Image Comics. So I thought that would be an Image comic called Dagger. John Dagger is a fantasy notion of what a rock singer would have been at the end of the 19th century. Wanted for stabbing to death police chief John Dagger, terrorist and anarchist leader of the Russian underground. This is actually, it's got humour in it. I may read, how long have I got, Steve? 20 minutes? I don't know. Yeah, but I may come back to that. It's comic, it's funny. But these, the first 4, this is a February edition of the same book. What happens when you self-publish and we want total control over your publication is that I was unhappy that about a fraction of a centimetre was stripped off the top of the February edition, and I didn't like the way the G's hadn't completely rounded, so the June edition's got the correctly rounded tops. Now if that splinter of a centimetre line was enlarged, you've got a beautiful piece of asemic design. maybe I think I will read number one. There's 5 chapters. This is one is uncaught fruit flies on walls and windows. This goes back before I was born. Bromley born Herbert George Wells died in London on Tuesday, August the 13th, 1946. As Wells left the known world for unknown metropolis, angel children, seraphim and cherubim, all this stuff is sampled from Edward Mogul's 1930s Britpop fantasy fiction, escorted a newborn human creation into the sun's solar system on Earth. That's our sun. In his stories, Mogul created a universe containing an infinite number of expanding and contracting solar systems and the known world of common reality. Wells escorted from Earth through the nebulous rivers of the planisphere Astralis, sounds more poetic than hemispheres, by pin-eyed ferryman in null imaginative space, more 1930s nonsense from Ed Mogul and his illustrator Gatch, sees winged theatrical prop, seraphim and cherubim carrying a large egg, viewed as such from Starship Island of Dreams portal, stationed at Metropolis, the recently deceased Dignification Removal Centre at Nuts Wood. Wells saw the angel children on their egg in space fly through the prism of a cartoon-like drawing. H.G. Wells, a talented amateur draftsman himself, christened such weird cartoons pictures. Wells drew many pictures during his time on Earth. A cartoon dialogue balloon on the egg read, "Remember, this one is named Michael after the Archangel." It could have been a dream or a low-budget black and white film made in Croydon. Stanley Holloway plays an elderly cockney, walking through bomb sites carrying a heavy egg in both hands. He takes a strange spherical object to a semi-detached house in a suburban road named Prospect Way. Its signage a fake production prop. Could be a clip from a Humphrey Jennings film. The film's location is a secret. Film as magical depiction of natural reality, close to both common and dreamtime realities. Captured on YouTube and viewed through plastic screen, a modern smartphone or tablet. It doesn't look magical, it looks ridiculous. Truth be told, it is ridiculous. Yet, in a vast nebulous gulf between feeling and rationality, there are obscure realities to tap into. During Wells' journey from the known world to the unknown via Metropolis, the ex-simultaneous journey from the other world to the known world via a human womb, the dialogue balloon caption on the object changes. In dream, film and reality it reads, "Keep your pencil sharp, Michael." On Wednesday morning, August 14, 1946, at 8:00 Social Reality Earth Time, BBC Radio News announced Herbert George Wells' death to the world. Newspapers informed the nation in print at 8 o'clock that morning in a local council housing property requisitioned by Bromley's district for 2 generations of one family plus a spinster and her aged mother, all made homeless by V2 rockets. A boy child was born. An elderly, recently retired railway worker, played in the film by Stanley Holloway, nips out to buy an ounce of dark shag tobacco in the Daily Herald. The old railway man has chewed and smoked baccy in his pipe for years. Joe Stalin turned pipe smoking into a fashion for young communist and national socialist males in 1946. Pipe tobacco smelled good to female comrades, or the baby's mother, played by Kathleen Byron, claimed. International male socialists and communists believed H.G. Wells attracted women because his smell was appealing. Dead now, though, thought the old railway man, and a new mouth to feed at 64 Prospect Way. The railway man's thoughts in the movie were conveyed by Stanley Holloway as voiceover. In England, a few members of the royal family, fascinated by Wells's professed lifelong anti-monarchism, along with much of the country's curious upper class, most of the capital's interested middle class, plus Scotland's and Wales' curious newspaper readers, hear about Wells's passing. London's scientific, literary and socialist intelligentsia, along with North American Commonwealth elites, are reading Wells' obituary in the New York Times. A large egg hatches at 64 Prospect Way near Croydon in a hidden Stanley Holloway movie. My word, the old railway worker mutters, it does look queer. In H.G. Wells' lifetime, name coincidence drew Orson Welles to dramatising Welles' War of the Worlds for radio. Also by name coincidence, the woman who mothered the newly hatched child took her husband's recommended father of the child, surname Weller, containing letters W-E-L-L and sound inflection. Well, if phoneme codes existed as an unknown in 1946, as did genetic codes, it would take a 1940s science fiction writer to speculate the nature of phoneme codes in fantasy fiction as both phonemic and genetic. For example, General semantics, A. Van Voigt's null A stories, null imaginative O-R-W-E-L-L or W-E-L-L-S and W-E-L-L-E-S. This comic book is actually about a comic, and it's the tale of Joe Shuster and Jerry Siegel entitled Mechanically Inadvisable. This is written in 2006. It's a home-baked printing from 2007. I wish I could paint a cutie like that. Joseph, the short-sighted of the two youths, lifted the cover of Weird Tales closer to his face. I mean, how does the artist get her to look so real? The artists on those magazines trace some photographs and paint them over, said the other boy, Jerome. They don't trace. Those cover artists study figure drawing. They go to life classes. If only I could paint dames like that. Doesn't Cleveland have nude models at the school? Asked Jerome. My scholarship at Cleveland is to study history of art. I've got to learn from the old masters first. It takes years to get the human body right. Anatomy and proportion of perspective, said Joseph. But when I get my place at John Huntington Art School, there'll be nude models. I'll have to pay for the classes, though. Naked girls, says Jerome, lifting his eyebrows. Men, women, all ages. At Huntington, drawing from life is taken seriously. Yeah, this, once again returning to Metropolis, and that quotation from Chris O'Leary's new Zero book. This is Shakespeare's London. Shakespeare came to London at a fortunate time. If he had been born 20 years earlier, he would have arrived in London when underpaid hacks were churning out childish dramas about brown paper dragons. If he had been born 20 years later, he would have arrived when the drama had begun to lose its hold on ordinary people and was succumbing to a kind of self-conscious cleverness. But his arrival in London coincided with a great wave of excitement and achievement in the theatre, and he rode with it to its crest. William Shakespeare brought great gifts to London, but the city was waiting with gifts of its own to offer him. The root of his genius was Shakespeare's own, but it was London that supplied him with the favouring weather. I didn't write that. Ah, look at that. The boy and girl who looked up at the sky in wonder. July 2005, Home-Baked Books by Mike and John Weller. The first home-baked book. But why on earth would I self-publish that when I'd written it and it'd been included in the Scribner's Edition collective? I couldn't quite understand why I was so dissatisfied with the fact that it had been published by an edition by a collective. Why on earth would I want to self-publish it? But before that, it had appeared in an Arts Council funded publication, and it's a perfect bound paperback. And perfect bound paperbacks are lovely, aren't they? They're so, you want to rip them, like, rip them, that's what you want to do. And I was really, you always learn from poets. I really learned from Stephen at the Rich Mix. Enemigos. And Steve ate it. He ate the book like that. I swallowed it. And this is probably worth, this is £4.99 when it came out, but I reckon it's worth £129.99 now. I love this love-eating book. I love it. Ah, this is a 2005 piece of writing, but home-baked book publication was 2006. I think I'll give this a, how are we doing? Yeah, I think I'll give this a really. This is a Simpsonized Blair and Brown J.K. Rowling image. This is the very, really early edition. Oh look, that's a later edition there. And look, it's even in zine format. So I'm going to read this version of it. Mike Weller woke up one morning to find his world turned yellow. Soaping up for a shave, he didn't feel beard growth, not even under his chin, where there was usually stubbly prickle. Short-sighted Mike saw a blurred yellow face staring back from the bathroom window. Placing his spectacles on his nose drew things into focus. What I've done with the spectacles. The bathroom was one-dimensional with a pixelated edge, as if the world was intended to have bold outlines, but Weller wasn't animated enough to make the perception complete. Mike dashed to his living room window. Peering out, the world was painted in flat primary colours. The sky was software sky blue, but the clouds didn't wash true white. They didn't even denote an absence of colour. The clouds were holes where darkness was trapped, a landscape without tone, shadow or hue. The balconies on the housing estate had been painted fuchsia in a regenerative effort to improve appearance. They had been painted the day before by contractors, Bob the builders in yellow hard hats. Weller made 3 of the Bobs a pot of tea, Sri Lankan with thick dry leaves that made the liquid look colour box maroon. Mike thought how tea-looking he had made the brew in a matching set of Simpsons mugs. Then Weller realised the sky had been painted from the same palette as the balconies and the tea. He turned towards the high street. It was a picture of buzz, blurred dots, blobs and wobbly lines. Mike needed air, a walk outside the simulation. The birds were singing sweet, but they were singing tweet tweet over and over again in the same pitch. It was a repeated sound loop. Now that paragraph became a tweet over a period of 3 years. But when a proxy tweet was made, it was actually a really strict rule-based pattern poem that was to appear over 3 years, and a proxy tweet completely messed it up and destroyed it, and I decided to make a pattern poem called Trending, Pending, Ending, and then an actual Amazon Kindle of the whole process called Sorry, that page doesn't exist. That's my first electronic publication. What have we got? This, there isn't actually a great deal of poetry that I've actually self-published, but there was a series of a feminized trilogy that began with Beryl Olson's Sharp Exhalations, and there's 2. Once again, I realised that it wasn't Debbie Reynolds that inspired Beryl Olson at all. It was a very, very well-known 1940s actress I got confused with. It's Esther Williams, a swimmer. Debbie Reynolds, Esther Williams. How could that be so confusing? So I did another edition, Beryl Olson's Sharp Exhalations, with Esther Williams' image, and then Andrea Brady, Poetry Lady, at also. And the third and the last of the section is actually, I won't say the name, but it's Someone Does It Better, and Holly. But it's an art gallery, you can show the image there. And it's something that I reinvent all the time, because the explosion of female poets is just, I think it's absolutely fantastic. I'm a female poet when it comes to that, and I can't understand when these old sort of pub function room things are still going, you know, when they say, oh, we can't find the women poets, what do I read? Oh yes, I think, there's a Megan, I'll do a Megan page. Megan M. Gar and Marina Frascaspada and Mia Hagukova and Swante Lichtenstein and Mai Bersenbrugger does it better. And Carol Godbert and Carol Novak and Joyce Carol Oates and Carol Watts and Caroline Grellis and Caroline Ducker and Caroline Price and Caroline Wilson and Caroline Naxler and Caroline Mirakova and Caroline Roborden and Caroline Bergwell and Caroline Bird and Carrie Etter and Carrie Hunter and Carrie Smith does it better. And Caroline Fisher and Caroline Finley and Caroline Thompson and Caroline Marwood does it better. As a Dorothy. Sandeep Pamar and Satya Gehande and Gloria Evans Davis and Pauline Stewart Barbarelli does it better, and Wendy Muscua and Wendy Mulanzanova and Wendy Rossa and Wendy French and Wendy Mulford and Helen Kitson and Helen Johnson and Ella Reeves and Tomosa Drone and Chloe Harris and Chloe Macon and Chloe Mitchell does it better. And Dennis Lobatov, 1923 to 1998, and Denise Riley does it better, and Dorothy Newman, Dorothy Swartz, and Dorothy Lahan, and Dorothy Alaski, and Dorothy Gruen-Limoa, and Leanne Bridgewater, and Ehrman Lawson does it better, and Asa Berg, and Ariel Greenberg, and Ariel Guy, and Elias Prince Donahue, and Albert Aldavy, and Jodie Oates, and Abigail Osborne, and Abigail Child, Brooklyn Copeland, and Dana T. Lomax, and Bonnie Emmerich, and Bonnie G. McCluskey, and Bonnie Jones, and Connie Scosaro, and Adina Karasik, and Alexandra Helmsy, and Ali Noaz, and Angela Liadi, and Ala Babidasi, and Shepard Jad, and Kala Karpagitska, and Ashini Ayer, and Alu Adel, and Brennan Ashbuk, and Luna Muekel, and Yellow Goldberg, 1898 to 1961. Does it better? Now somehow, where I've got a Catherine page and there's another poet who I've added to the, and I've just got to find this. Just bear with me, I've got to find this. It's such a good page. And Katerina Johansson, and Katerina Paramara, and Kath Nichols, and Kathy Culls, and Catriona Strang, and Kathy Villa, and Kathy Whedon, and Catherine Mang, and Catherine Swanson, and Catherine Hales, and Catherine Wagner, and Catherine Daly, and Catherine Eastman, and Catherine Williams, and Kerry Featherstone, and Kerry Borley, and Kerry Budd, and Kerry Salby, and Kerry Finlayson, and Kerry Hardy, and Kerry Benton, and Kerry Morrison, and Carla Benson, and Cara Greenhill, and Karina Kopp, and Lainey Brown, and Leonard Curry does it better, and Catherine Harmon, and Catherine Friedrichs, and Kathleen Ashall, and Kathleen Dasukiewicz, and Catherine Shrapley, and Kathleen I. Pringle does it better, and Kate Potts, and Kate Noakes, and Kate Cheney Chappell, and Kate Walthouse, and Kate Lamisco, and Kate Keelia, and Kate Spoko, and Kate Wiggs, and Kate Suze, and Kate Tempest, and Katie Craigs, and Katie Clapham does it better, and Margaret Woods, and Margaret Clersey, and Margaret Kozakitowski, and Margaret K. Ruby, and Margot Biedronchewski, and Maggie Butts does it better. That's it, isn't it?